Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show, as we have started to call it here. Today, I am here with Madison Norton. How are you?
Doing awesome.
Thanks for being with me today.
Yeah, no problem. It's a nice sunny one outside. So
welcome to the show on a sunny day here. So, Madison, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where do you live? Where are you from? Who are you?
Yeah,
what's the deal?
For sure, I can get into that for a second. So I'm born and raised in the Lower Mainland. Lived in Langley for the first few years of my life, and then was actually super lucky to live on Galiano Island for 2 years. So that was a blast as a young kid. We had our own beach and a dock, and basically just ran wild with my brother for about 2 years, and then we moved to Abbotsford, and I grew up there. So went to school there, high school, played rugby, hockey, lacrosse. And then moved on to university after high school, and decided just to keep things simple. I went to University of Fraser Valley and studied English literature there. So that was my big focus through school.
And you work in English literature now?
Not even close.
Let
Not
that
even
be
close.
A lesson to you.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a teacher at one point, and then I ended up down this other random path and ended up in marketing, which. That's kind of the story of a lot of my friends and like colleagues in marketing. It's like, we stumbled into it at some point.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what type of jobs in marketing have you had?
So I've had a really cool wide variety. So my first job, I started in actually the real estate industry, and that's where we met. So I worked for a company called the Real Estate Investment Network. It was, and still is, basically a training program for real estate investors in Canada, people that buy and sell properties. I joined the team there, handling inbound marketing, working on kind of their email programs and social particularly. So that was 2010. That's when social media, from like the organic side that we call it now, was really just starting to kick off. Facebook and Twitter.
We didn't really have no Instagram at that point.
Instagram didn't exist. Facebook was a couple years old. Yeah. Twitter was like unknown to the masses, right? It was kind of only the first adopters that really got it and were into it. And those were the big channels back then for a couple of years.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So went from RAIN, Real Estate Investment Network. You managed inbound marketing? Yeah.
So and basically all of the lead generation, kind of like that sales marketing mix side of the company. Yeah. And
then where did you go from RAIN?
From RAIN, I moved on to another Vancouver company that people may know called Build Direct. And it was an e-commerce platform for home renovation products. The big thing was flooring, was actually being able to sell heavyweight goods and deliver them to people's homes basically the same way that you'd buy off Amazon.
Right.
So get something that weighs 2,000 pounds to your door just by clicking and buying online. Yeah. So
they were the Amazon of heavy things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so I worked there for just about 3 years, and honestly, that was kind of like a career trajectory change, because that business was really innovative in how hardcore they were around digital marketing. So the data analytics side of the supply chain was huge, and on our marketing side, it was all digital. We only ran in all the major channels, Google, social, as Facebook and paid social really started to kick off. We invested really, really heavily there. Yeah. And we were kind of on the forefront of some of the big companies that were doing that, at least locally within that circle.
That's great. Yeah. And where'd you go from there?
And then my next one was kind of a really cool move over to Indochino. So it's basically a men's made-to-measure clothing brand, hometown Vancouver brand, started by two guys that were former UVic grads. I think they started it in 2000. It's either 7 or 8. So the company's like 13 years-ish this year. Yeah. And I worked there for 2 years as the head of CRM, so customer relationship marketing, which is kind of email and search engine optimization, all the inbound quote-unquote free traffic within the business. Right. And then working really close side by side with the paid acquisition team. So I had really great teammates that handled all the paid social, all the paid search, AdWords, those channels, and grew from, I think there was 8 stores when I joined the company, and when I left after 2 years, there was like 35, almost 40. Wow. So the growth was incredibly fast and still growing like the online business as well.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. They're kind of a great Vancouver story.
Yeah, and I mean, all the COVID-19 aside, they've still been steadily growing this past year and a half since I was there. I think they opened their 50th or 55th showroom maybe sometime just before all the shutdowns happened. So yeah, they're just moving lightning fast still.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so and where are you today?
So I just recently, amongst all the craziness, started a new job with a really cool software company called Visual CV. So what we do is we're an online resume building tool. So for everybody and anybody that is looking to put together a great looking resume, people realize like how tedious it can be to, one, just create it, period. Most people don't necessarily have design skills. Mm-hmm. So we kind of take all that design out of it, make it really easy to build a resume in template formats that look really good, and they're really quick and easy to put together.
Right.
And then you can just download them and use them in the formats that you need for whatever job you're trying to apply for.
So does it take like my LinkedIn profile and turn it into a resume type of thing?
We can do that, yeah. So you can import your profile from LinkedIn. You can take an existing resume that you have that might not exactly. Yeah. If you've got one that like you don't necessarily love the way it looks, but it's got all the info you want, you can put it into our platform and then pick and choose from over 20 different design templates that our design team puts together, and then you don't have to worry about trying to do it yourself or trying to pay somebody an expensive fee to try and get one done.
And what are you doing for them?
I'm the director of marketing, so I oversee essentially the entire marketing stack and program. So everything from acquisition, retention, loyalty, and that includes everything from paid social, Google, Facebook, email, customer service as well rolls up into me and my team, and then kind of being a small company, everything in between, as you can imagine.
Yeah. So full stack, as you say, the whole deal. That's great.
Yeah.
So if we talk a little bit about paid social here, and that's kind of where I'd like to maybe focus our conversation if we can. So, your boss says to you, or you guys get a sense that you want to do a campaign for whatever, maybe hiring season is coming up, or, if that's a thing or whatever, you're like, okay, let's get out there and let people know that we exist. Maybe you want to raise awareness, maybe, whatever that is. Can you maybe walk us through the steps of how you go about creating a paid advertising campaign on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the big things is that paid social as a focus as a channel is actually still just one step of the whole customer life cycle. So, there's a good chance that different customers, different users, they're going to come in from one of multiple places.
Yeah. And can you tell us about that?
Yeah, exactly.
That funnel?
Yeah. So from a traffic acquisition perspective, Google search is for us one of our biggest traffic channels. So ranking for all the relevant keywords like how to create a resume, free resumes online, resume builder, those types of terms and keywords. That's where we're driving a huge amount of our traffic currently. So people are going to find us from a Google search, or they're going to see us in terms of, prospecting advertising on Facebook, on Instagram, or within kind of Google Adwords as well. So from a actual kind of top-down campaign perspective, what I want to do first is look and see like where are most of these customers going to come from. So within Facebook, there's an opportunity to create campaigns either for prospecting, where you're literally getting in front of people for probably the very first time, and they might have no idea, they're completely cold. Or kind of the second piece would be retargeting. So users that have already been to your website, but then you're going to showcase ads on Facebook for them. They're already familiar. They may have signed up for an account, or they might have just visited and checked out a blog post. And you're literally going to just try to be top of mind so that when it's time for them to actually think about using the product and maybe even paying for like a pro subscription, the way that our business works, then you're kind of top of mind against all the competitors.
So retargeting is when I search something, I find something online, and then that follows me for the rest of my life.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you think you're talking and your phone's listening to you and you're seeing all those ads, they all of a sudden start popping up. That's actually not not exactly what's happening. You're likely have a friend or yourself, without realizing it, somebody in a nearby area that's been picked up on some sort of lookalike audience. So just that you fell into.
So be careful what you search.
Exactly.
Or be careful who you hang out with, apparently.
Yeah. So marketers are basically just following people around everywhere, trying to get in front of them.
Okay, great. So where do we go from there?
So considering where that first touch is going to go, whether you're setting up a campaign for prospecting or retargeting is kind of that first thing. And from there, let's just take prospecting as an example. You're going to want to look at setting up your audiences is one of the most important parts of actual targeting on paid social. So from that point, for us as an example, we have a global business because it's fully digital. So we're going to probably start somewhere simple, like looking at our geography, and then below that, we're going to look at age, and then we're going to start to look at some sort of lookalike type audience opportunities. So some people that might be looking for jobs, we can look at other types of attributes like looking at what their other likes and career opportunities are, if they're students or not. Those are ways that we can split that audience. And then that's going to kind of set the tone for what the ad might look like and what the copy is actually going to say.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at people that are like recent graduates in Canada, between the ages of like 18 and 25, then that's going to look slightly different than if we're targeting, women in East Coast US that are 45 and over in some sort of job kind of search scenario.
Right.
And then from that spot, we're going to then look at setting up the ad creative. So for a prospecting campaign, we want to assume that they don't know who we are.
Right.
They've never heard of us. And because we're starting with a bit of a broad targeting setup, there's even a chance that they might not need the product right away, depending on who we're getting in front of. But at the same time, we're lucky that I think everybody needs a resume.
Yeah.
And so we have the luxury, I think, of even if it's not that time that someone's going to use it right away, we know getting in front of them and giving them a chance to check out the tool is going to be worthwhile, even at that broad targeting stage.
Yeah.
So from there, we're going to go to design. We're going to put together a series of ads. Usually if we're going to actually launch a campaign, we're going to launch probably 2 to 4 pieces of creative in a single campaign so that we can test and see which ones are performing best.
And when you say creative, you're talking about photos? Copy, videos?
So that's a really good question. Yeah. So when I say creative, for me, the creative is literally the visual, but the copy also kind of bakes into that. But creative for me, in kind of the jargon terms, is like the actual photo, whether it's a photo or an animation or design. Sure. So we're going to take a specific piece of creative. We'll test things like having copy on the image, using options without copy on the image, and then actually looking at the copy, headline, and CTA buttons in the ad and setting different variants of those as well. Yeah. So short copy is an option, longer copy. There's a trend right now. It's kind of just starting to pop up where people are using emojis and kind of like bullet point style ads where it's actually quite a bit longer. Right. The copy above the images that are actually in the Facebook setup.
And that seems to be working.
It is, yeah. We've just started testing those in the last month or two, and we've had pretty good response. Like conversion rate's pretty solid, and the click-through rates are really good. So for me, the click-through rate is the strongest measure of the ad capturing your attention and making you want to act on it. So and then the actual
click-through meaning they just click on the ad onto your website.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So click-through rate from a social ad is exactly that. Clicking on the ad, visiting the site. And then for us, the conversion rate is, do they convert to the goal that we've set for the ad campaign?
So what could the goal be? Or what are some various goals?
Yeah, exactly. So for us, there's 2 main ones. Signing up for a free account, just creating a user account and testing the product. And for that, we'll kind of consider them a lead because they're not paying for the product yet. And then the second major conversion that we look at is an actual customer acquisition. So signing up and paying for the pro subscription paid service.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then what type of measurement do you look at to say, yes, we've achieved our goal? Do you say, we're looking for this many people, this many clicks?
Yeah.
Relation to dollars you spent?
Yeah. So the beauty of that is there's multiples that you look at.
Yeah.
In the absolute bottom end of it, did we sign up enough paid users to drive the revenue target that we're trying to drive for the month, for example? Now, above that, we're looking at, we need a certain number of clicks, which above that means we need a certain reach, which is this ad getting in front of enough people? And is the click-through rate and the cost per click affordable enough for us to drive down to that bottom number of paid purchases for subscribers?
Right.
Yeah.
And where does the direction come from? Who decides this is what we want to achieve in your brand? Is it you? Is it the CEO?
So in terms of like, what is our overall business goal? Yeah. So within our company, being small, it's pretty collaborative. So as a group, we've decided, okay, we want to grow revenue, say 30% this year over the previous year.
Yeah.
Great. So that's a goal that's achievable. We think we can do it. And then from there, we will break it down from the actual metrics and say, we need to drive this many new subscribers. We need this many people to retain, to actually resubscribe and keep using the product. And then we kind of build the marketing plan up from that revenue number that we're trying to achieve, which kind of backs into number of users, number of paid subscribers based on kind of what subscription level they'd be signed up for.
So I talk to a lot of people about this type of stuff in this kind of interview format, and also as guest speakers in my classes, or just people I know in marketing. And what I'm surprised about is how few businesses or individuals who maybe are a brand have any strategy at all.
Yeah, that's
just
a great one.
Just kind of like just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor this might work, or this worked last time, or I saw a sunset, so I took a picture of it, and that's what I posted, type of thing. So you guys, you clearly have some type of strategy you're following. Yeah. How important is that for you?
Strategy is kind of everything. Because if you just throw around a bunch of tactics, you don't really have something to rally around. And then you're not really driving to one thing. So you would have, I think, less of a focus of knowing which tactics we're actually driving for the business.
Right.
For us, the big rallying strategy is that we want to be the best resume builder available online.
Yeah.
And we want to be like essentially a partner for our customers in their job search. So that is kind of our vision that we roll the strategy right around. Yeah. And so if we think about that kind of informs a little bit of the type of creative we put out, the development we do on the actual software product, and even how we take the approach to the full marketing funnel, treating people as partners in the sense of that brand vision is it goes into the language we use and the emails that we write. It goes into the copy in those ads. It even just goes into the way that our customer service team would handle people, and treating it really high touch and making sure that people are giving us hard-earned money to use this product. We want to make sure they feel like it's worth it. So rolling that into everything, even beyond just the ads that we put out, is kind of that focus of rallying around a specific vision. Yeah.
So the resume builder market, I would assume, is pretty saturated.
Yeah, totally is.
So how do you stand apart?
For us, we have probably one of the best feature sets of the other software products that are out there. So we've got great, clean, modern designs, and the tool is really easy to use. And it also has, in our opinion, more features to actually manipulate and change your resume. So it's a lot more flexible than some of the other tools. Okay. And in a sense, it's just a lot more modern.
Yeah. So just getting back into ads, what is the difference between paid search ad and social ad? Paid social ad.
So paid search simply is basically a Google ad that you're going to see when you do a search
Don't ignore
in Google.
The Bing users.
No, and actually, it's a good one. Well, anybody
we're trying to have an inclusive society here.
Yeah, no, Bing's still a thing. We still
Is it?
It is. It still drives a chunk of our traffic. For a lot of people, it's a default on a lot of devices. Yeah. And so we find that like slightly older users or maybe less tech savvy, they get a new laptop, they get a new Android phone, and that's the default. and they just run with it. So they still see a ton of traffic through Bing.
But they think it's Google.
Because it looks almost the same. They basically look the same. The results are very different. But yeah, we do run ads both in Google and Bing. So yeah, Google AdWords or Bing ads, Microsoft Advertising as they're called now, literally those ads that you see at the very top of your search results. So if you search today, free resume builder online, you're going to get an ad from Visual CV and maybe one of our competitors based on that keyword, and you're going to see a different ad for each. So ours might say number 1 online resume builder. Visit visualcv.com and try us today. You might see a competitor that has a different line of copy that says, best resume builder in North America. Free trial, 7 days, for example.
Yeah.
And what we'll be doing is we'll be on the back end of that bidding against that specific keyword, free resume builder, setting bids in relationship to what the market is also bidding against. Ideally, you want to get those as low as possible while driving the most conversions as possible. And those conversions could be free signups, purchases, newsletter submissions. They could literally be page views if you're just driving a pure traffic campaign. That could be something for like a newer site where you literally just want to get eyeballs on what you're doing. But yeah, setting the goal is important, and then the bid strategy against that.
So when we look at the reasoning behind using paid AdWords versus paid social, why would you use one versus the other?
I think the biggest reason to use one over the other could be your budget. So there in the AdWords kind of world, you've got branded keywords and non-branded keywords. So branded keywords are essentially anything with your brand name in it. So for us, we would be bidding on something literally called Visual CV or Visual Dash CV, Visual Space CV, just the variants of our name. Indochino, literally bidding on Indochino. Those are usually really, really low cost because most competitors won't bid against you. It's kind of just like the fair play agreement out there in the marketing world,
right?
Generally. There's exceptions to that, and it can get really expensive for both companies if you start trying to conquest each other. So your branded keywords are generally really low cost. The non-branded keywords like free resume builder, those are more expensive because you're essentially paying for the prospecting. Right. If someone's searching your brand name, they know who you are. Yeah. You're more or less paying a really, really low cost for like an organic search, a free SEO search. But the non-branded keywords are more like prospecting. So choosing AdWords over social, you have a chance maybe for slightly lower cost in the grand scheme, but you're going after very targeted people. So it is a more focused prospecting channel, whereas paid social is a true opportunity to prospect to cold users, like cold customers that may have no idea. It's literally, in a way, the maybe closest analogy is like buying a billboard 25 years ago, but you can buy this ad and you can target it and you can see what people are doing and you can measure the success and you can see what every single dollar is doing.
So social media ads are the modern billboards.
Yeah, I think to someone that's maybe like new to the industry or newer to paid social, I think it's a decent analogy. Yeah. But highly sophisticated. Yeah. And whereas
it's not just about the people driving by on the highway, it's
exactly
much more targeted than that.
So you spend $50,000 on a billboard that sits out on, Highway 1 or on First Avenue in Vancouver. You have no idea who's seeing it. You don't know who those people are. Yeah. You don't know how many saw it. You don't know how many people went and bought from your brand or whatever your goal was on that. There's little to no measurement on the return on investment for that. Whereas the complete opposite is true for a paid social ad. Yeah. You know exactly who you're going after within like the audience targeting that you set. You know exactly how much you're spending for every single click and every single view. And you know exactly how many people are actually completing the goal that you're going after. So very measurable, but lets you go out to the masses and get in front of people that have no idea who you are and can get in front of customers from all over the world if you're a brand that can sell globally.
Imagine you were going to do your first billboard campaign and you launched it and then COVID hit and no one's driving.
Yeah.
hate to be that guy. Eh?
Well, I guarantee there's some of that going on. I mean, if Coca-Cola drops a bunch of cash on billboards, like, they're probably fine.
Yeah.
But if you took a runner and we're doing a bit of a test in the beginning of March, yeah, it'd be super tough.
Yeah.
You'd have little to no eyeballs on it.
Yeah. So who is your guys' target market?
For us, the main target market is kind of junior to mid-level career job seekers, essentially ages 20 to 50, roughly. Anywhere from entry-level positions, so junior sales, marketing, STEM careers, up to mid and junior executives, so like director levels. We have adjacent customers that we keep tabs on, but our target market isn't executives and C-suite.
Yeah.
Because those folks probably aren't building their own resumes at this point, and they're past that level in their career tenure.
They may be getting headhunted. Exactly.
Yeah, they're in a different level, and they're not. Even if they are someone, they might be paying us. There are services that could do that, literally, like a la carte, do the entire thing for them.
Right.
So we're going after the people that are growing their careers, need the resume, want it to look great and be effective, but want it to be a little bit better than Microsoft Word.
And so you're not going for, getting my first job at McDonald's type of 15-year-old.
No, not necessarily like the absolute junior first job ever, but folks that are in retail and the restaurant industry and freelancers, like professional freelancers that are working different clients and gig jobs. Those are a huge part of our customer group as well, because they're using their resumes actually more frequently even than like a longer term career path client might.
Yeah.
So it becomes really useful to be able to store all your career data in our platform versus having to shift it through versions of like Microsoft or some sort of design file that you might have got from a designer that you may be hired to do a contract or something.
So a couple of years ago, I had you speak to my students, and there's something that you talked about that has always stuck with me, because I was like, wow, they can do that. And you were talking about email marketing with Indochino.
Okay.
And you were talking about like, I get an email and it's like the sale ends in 16 hours, and the time every time I open the email, the time is accurate. And then if I switch time zones, it changes. And then the dollar value, it's like the suit's $299. $299, but if I go into Bellingham, it knows I'm in America and it changes it to US dollars. And it's like this super active email, and I felt like I was being manipulated my whole life. I didn't know this is a thing. It's
a real thing. Yeah, those guys are a really amazing software partner that I worked with for a couple of years at Indochino. Basically what it is, it's a dynamic content delivery service. So you have a piece of HTML code that serves up part of your email content as images. And on the back end, their service is setting basically business rules against whatever you tell the system to do. So by location is a huge one when we are at Indochino, because we sell to the US in US dollars, and then in Canada it's Canadian dollars. The prices are different because the exchange rate obviously kills us in Canada, so we pay a little bit more. But when the email is opened on your iPhone, for example, it's rendering in milliseconds based on the logic that you set, and the creative is showing up based on that location at the time of open. So you open in Vancouver this morning at 9 o'clock, get your suit for $5.99 Canadian. Literally, you could drive down to Seattle, reopen the same email, and the system knows that your location is now changed based on your device. It'll render the email instantly. You don't even notice it. It'll show up, and boom, you're buying a suit for $3.99 US at the Seattle store versus the Yaletown Vancouver store.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you can split you can split that stuff literally like a million ways.
Right.
It's a hugely beneficial tool for retail, and it's huge for basically any business that has an appointment-based model. So even if you were even if you were like a dentist's office that had an email marketing strategy of any kind, I feel like RMT and now a lot of gyms and fitness facilities that want people to book specific time slots, like to stay safe with the amount of people in the class space and whatnot. That same platform, you can connect it by API to your appointment software that most of these businesses run to manage their bookings. You can just showcase that stuff in real time based on location. Yeah. So
brilliant.
If there was a studio in Kits versus a studio in like East Van for like a cycling studio, you could target people within that 2-mile radius and say only showcase the appointments when they open these emails for the Kits location versus Strathcona.
So you're setting up geofencing, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to just end on is like, what do you think? Like, where are we going with marketing? What's like the next thing? What are we going to be super excited about next year or the year after?
Yeah, this is a great one because
not to put you on the spot, but the whole world changed a couple months ago. So
I know things are so different. So I think one of the big things that's going to happen is actually the cost of digital marketing, paid social particularly, is going to rise quite significantly over the next. I think it's going to be 12 to 36 months, like 1 to 3 years. We're going to see the cost go up. I don't know exactly how much, and I think a big reason for that is the big brands that didn't necessarily realize the value and the relative low cost of paid social. They now have to go get in front of this because people are going to be out and about less. They're going to be seeing less of outdoor. People are spending more time on their phones, on game systems, on basically like OTT, like streaming services versus TV. So many people are cutting cable now to save costs, but they still want to pay for Netflix, right? So you have to show up where people's attention is, and devices and social channels is where it's going to be. So those big brands are going to flood the markets more heavily than I think they ever have. Yeah. You know, like the Cokes, the Nikes, Adidas.
Well, even like Lululemon traditionally hasn't really used advertising techniques. You know, they really depend on their own profile and using ambassadors. And now, you know, maybe we'll see them enter into that space, which of course creates competition for yoga wear or whatever the keyword is.
Exactly. And within those paid platforms, there's a finite inventory of advertising, and that's why the cost fluctuates. Yeah. So just like any supply and demand channel, as the demand grows, the supply dwindles, the price goes up, and that's what's going to happen. So right now is still, it's more expensive than it was 2 years ago, but I think we're still at a really great point for the next 2 to 3 years. This is purely like my rambling prediction. That's going to go up. So now is a great opportunity. If you're a smaller brand, there's still a huge amount of opportunity to take advantage of it. Yeah, and that's one big one. And then I think the next big one within maybe the industry for anyone that's trying to go into marketing is, I think everyone's very much so got the math figured out of all these platforms, like the actual tech side of it, the bidding, setting costs, the CPA, like your cost per acquisitions and your budgeting. That stuff's gotten very, very clinical, which is amazing. I think the biggest differentiator for any brand is going to actually be the creative. It's going to be the visuals. It's going to be the copy. It's going to be those things that actually require human creativity and input.
The storytelling?
Exactly. That's going to be the difference on top of the math and the tech side of paid social. If you manipulate the audiences, you can get so far, but what does your ad look like next to your competitor? Right. Is it clever? Is it more well thought out? Is it more personalized to that audience? Or are you just throwing out, you've manipulated 5 different audiences, but you're just cookie cutter throwing out the same 5 ads, versus we're going to say something different to that 45-year-old female on the East Coast US than we are to that 20-year-old young guy here in Vancouver. Yeah. We're actually going to have an ad that even has a variation to make sure that it's more contextual for the people we're trying to talk to.
I guess what you've kind of given us 2 perspectives of like the really mathematical, scientific aspect of marketing, which is huge. A lot of career opportunities in that. Yeah. And then the creative aspect of it. You know, there's certainly an intersection here where we're seeing, especially working for a small brand, you know, maybe when you hire people, you're looking for people who have skills on both sides, because you don't have a 20-person marketing team operating something like this.
That's actually a really great point. Absolutely. And particularly, I think as we've gone through the COVID scenario and companies have like sadly had to downsize a lot of people, they've had to get really lean. It's more and more important for anybody in any position, whether you're in marketing, you're in sales, you're in tech, business development, to round your skills out so that I think being more generalists are going to find success, because if you can do a bit of everything, it's more valuable to a small team if you can jump in and do 3 or 4 things. Yeah.
What are those things?
Being able to write in marketing, I think, is it's got to be number one these days. Personally, I feel it's so valuable.
Is that because you studied English literature?
It is because
you're biased at all.
I'm a little bit biased, but it's one of the skills that I think is tough to find. It's really tough to find great writers. Even being a competent writer can be really, really valuable laid on top of if you're like a math and a tech whiz in the marketing side. So that's super important. I think starting to understand the greater business impact of what you're doing is really valuable. So if you're in school and you're kind of like sleeping through the business stuff or the economic stuff, like that was a huge benefit that I got, particularly at my role at Indochino, and one of my last roles at Bailey Nelson was overseeing the full side of the business, the P&L, profit and loss, like the actual budget from every single part of the business. It gives you a greater perspective of what you're doing, even if it's in a small channel. And junior roles, you don't always get exposed to that, but I think if you get lucky and you have a great manager or a great kind of company structure that you get anything like that, just dig your teeth into it, because it will set you up. If you can understand that as you move into your next role over and above maybe somebody else that you might be competing with, you're going to have an edge, and you'll have an edge just to be able to do your job better. It's a huge skill.
Do you value when hiring people certificates like Google AdWords, Facebook Blueprint, Hootsuite, any of these types of certifications that you can get almost sometimes for free?
I definitely look at them and do take some value in them, because it means whether that person did that through a school course or during their job or on their own time, if they've legitimately gone through it, they're going to have an understanding of what they're working on, and depending what level of the position they're in. If somebody's got 5 or 7 years like working in a really specific e-com company doing just paid search, in speaking with them, I'll be pretty confident that they've got the skills based on how they can answer questions and how they can look at that. But that stuff definitely stands out over not having it. So if you are looking to grow skills in marketing, those are great certifications to go through, because they're just good. It just shows that you have curiosity. You want to learn more as you go. And marketing, I'm still learning every single day and week, like literally have to stay on top of it all the time. So you want to have people on your team that have like an innate curiosity as well, because it's kind of it's just part of the job now. Yeah,
that's great. That's excellent. Well, I think this has been super fruitful and helpful. There's been some great information here, so I appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming in with us today, Madison. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jared, for having me.
Thanks.
Cool.